In terms of no-gi, who do you think is the best no-gi competitor of all time?
There's no question, is Gordon I mean, I don't think it's right to say the best competitor of all time because he's still very young. I think that's something that it can be argued in the end of when the person.
You don't want him to get lazy. You don't want to say.
No, I mean, but you cannot praise someone in the middle of his career, So you cannot call him the best ever. He's 26 or 27. So he's great. He's very good. He's ahead of all of other competitors, I think. And he's having an amazing career. He's doing amazingly well. So when he finally retired, then you can argue like,
you know what? There's wisdom in that. It matters how you finish, right?
Of course,
it's very interesting.
I think the no-gi is relatively new. The no-gi scene there wasn't a scene before. I think he started now on his generation, his time. Because before, like when I was competing, no-gi was just ADCC. There's nothing else. Every 2 years, and first was only in the Emirates. You had to go there to compete. So there was not even a scene. There was like this one tournament that gives a lot of money to, to competitors, to fighters, and brings fighters from other modalities. Marka, Van Arsdale, some wrestlers, Greco-Roman, they can compete against each other. And they create that set of rules, try not to favor anyone. So that was it. So you cannot be called the greatest no-gi of all time if you only have one tournament every 2 years. Only in Emirates they have to be invited to. But I think now, it grew a lot. Now we have so many different tournaments. Now we have a scene. You have people that only train no-gi. They're fully dedicated to no-gi. And you have super fights, different tournaments. So now now it's professionally. You can do just no-gi now, which before was unheard of it because you have 1 or 2 tournaments. If you cannot be called a no-gi fighter fighting once every 2 years, twice every 2 years.
Yeah, now there's entire systems that are optimized for no-gi that could be fundamentally different. Like, what do you think about the body lock? Like this passing with the body lock, I don't know if you get an understanding of it.
Yeah,
that
I think it's okay.
It's a popular way to what is it? To apply,
to stay tight, very close to your opponent, so he can create distance. He can push away,
but somehow it shuts down the hips as well.
Yeah.
Makes it more difficult to defend.
Kind of trap your legs. Your back gets stuck against the floor.
Are you like scientifically curious about these new developments? Do you have answers in your head to them?
Most.
So body lock is one interesting one. Obviously, foot locks is another, and I don't mean just the foot locks, but the whole control aspect of foot locks. Yeah. That's interesting, and there's other interesting stuff. John is really into the wrestling aspect, but not wrestling, but wrestling everywhere. Jiu-jitsu at all levels of the plane. That's very interesting because obviously jiu-jitsu has not really been, unlike like freestyle wrestling and so on, has not been a systematic, scientific, rigorous exploration of wrestling. It's like you're on your feet and you're on the ground, not intermixed. There's a lot of interesting.
John is academic. He tried to, numbers, mathematics, everything.
Yeah. Well, you kind of are too.
Yeah. No, I am, because you have to understand what you're doing. There's a step-by-step, like logistic, like details. Every single move, there's a reason for it. There's things around that happens. The more you know, the better you are, right? The more knowledgeable, or competitor, or whatever. So I think with the footlocks, with the no-gi, like if you look back, if you think of, used to be seen as a really bad thing. to attack the foot.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't seen as a good options of attack. Mainly,
What is it, like respectable gentlemen don't attack the legs, or what?
No, because if you look back, the tournaments, when they were created, all the rules and everything else was to simulate a real fight with no punches when I was having a gi. I mean, if you ask, what is jiu-jitsu? Like, what are you trying? What's the main goal of jiu-jitsu? To dominate your opponent. What's the main goal of fighting? We're fighting. It's, of course, submission is the ultimate goal. But before that, the main goal is to dominate you. Like, we're fighting, I have to dominate you, and then the submission comes. And footlocks, I don't require any domination on you. I don't need to be in a dominant position to attack your foot. And if I attack your foot, you're still free to knock me out. If your body goes down to my foot, I can still come close to you or stand up and I'll punch you. So it's not a good position to be in a real fight. Yeah, to attacking the foot. I mean, how many times you've seen that going bad? That going bad in an MMA fight. I mean, of course, you had some sort of success with the heel hook. It's no questions. But how many times went wrong? People go knocked out attacking the foot. So you can't say it's the best position to be. It's okay to go, but it's a very high risky position to go. So that's why it's not in a real situation, it's not seen as a good thing. So when you translate that to jiu-jitsu, when attacking the foot, it's not seen as a good thing, because when you reflect that to a real situation, it's not going to go down well. So it was always seen as a easy way out, easy cut. You're trying to do the easy path. You can't pass my guard, you can't dominate me, and then you're trying to attack my foot. That's why it was always seen as as not as a great submission, a way to win.
But the sad side effect of that is it was completely underdeveloped because of that.
Exactly, of course. So people never really developed that. But now, the tournaments, the fighting, it got not completely, but it got it's not longer seen as, as a simulation of the real thing. Now it's a sport. It's only seen as a sport. So now it doesn't matter if you attack my foot, you cannot punch me. So why is it bad now to attack the foot? So it's not seen as a bad thing anymore. And now it got really developed.
I don't know. That's another bear versus shark question. But, there is, in a street self-defense situation, it's possible to imagine where footlocks would be effective for highly. But I guess if you invest 10,000 hours, it's better to invest it in chokes.
Yeah, to dominate you. If we're fighting, it's way better for me to be on your side control, on the mount, where I can pin you, be completely safe, than to stay inside your legs trying to attack your foot. What
people would argue that there's a lot of very dominant controlling positions in the whole footlock game, right?
It is, but it can go bad very quickly.
Yeah.
No, there's some great ways to control someone that he cannot escape.
Yeah.
But it can go bad very quickly. That's the thing.
Well, even back control can go bad very quickly on the street. So mount, I don't know. Is mount a really good position?
No, but then there's no good position then.
There's no good position.
Every position there's a risk. Okay? Attacking the foot is a way higher risk than side control, mount, back. Yeah. That's what I'm saying. The back is not the best way to pin someone unless you're underneath me. Because if you try to rotate, I can sacrifice the back and just let you be in the mount.
Okay, there you go. Would you prefer mount or back mount where they're flattened? Like
steel mount.
Thought I'd get you. So yeah, going back to Gordon, what do you think makes that guy so good? We were just at ADCC, got to see him historically dominant performance.
His dedication, the way he trains, and how much he trains. And of course, you have to add his mind, his belief to really try to be good, the best. Or, I don't know what his goals are, but I know he tried to be better than his opponents. So his belief are very strong. His dedication, he probably trains more than everybody else. I mean, I haven't seen firsthand, but from what I hear interviews with him and everybody else training, the way everybody trains,
Yeah.
trying to, for my little knowledge I have, I'll bet he trains more than everybody else. And most important, how he trains. When I kind of already knew, but when I heard John podcast with you the other day, John was explaining the preparation, the training for the ADCC, and that kind of gave me a very strong idea how they've been training all these years. So, when we said you have to work on your weakness, so you have no weakness, he trains a lot on his weakness, which not everyone does that. If you look I'm not going to name, but, other main schools, when like very strong competitors, great competitors, super tough people, but super tough, not great, because they spar very hard. That makes them tough. If you want to be good, you have to work on your weakness, because when you spar, like we're saying, how many times you're going to practice escaping a bad position, like a submission hold or a pinning position, side control, mount, or it's very little the amount time you get to spend on those positions if you don't start there. So that he's very smart the way he trains.
And part of that is also cerebral. It's not just putting yourself in those positions, but talking through different ideas.
Yeah.
Like they talk, they like experiment. It's very like at first glance, it's like philosophical almost. Because you're trying to create systems constantly. You're trying to understand how this fits into this big picture.
Yeah. And then it goes back to what is jiu-jitsu, what is fighting. He's fighting for dominance. He's fighting for the ultimate dominance positions, which is back and mount. There's no others. And from that, you finish. So if you look back at his, over the years of his past fights, before he used to mainly focus in legs. And over the past few years, now he's mainly focusing in finishing from the mountain back. Well, that's when he became really good.